Yo, what's happening, folks? Welcome back. Croeso nôl. I'm Nick, and this is Wales in the Movies. Apology, first of all, especially to the patrons. Haven't been releasing many videos lately. Truth, I kind of hit a bit of a wall. I'm busy editing a full 30-minute episode of Cymru Views about the classic movie The Proud Valley, but also just life is hard at the moment. Full-time work, a lot of childcare, and just need to step back from the computer screen and basically not have my fingers on a mouse for a few hours a day to keep myself healthy. You know what I mean? But of course, I wouldn't want to deny myself the absolute joy and the Japanese blossom garden of serenity, which has been Welsh Twitter for the last 48 hours, you know. Honestly, sometimes caring about Wales and its future can be a stressful game, you know. So thanks Welsh Twitter for that. And in truth, I've been a wee bit stressed actually about. I'm very concerned about the future of Yes Cymru, the organisation to which I am a member and have done work for, and have been a member since day one. So those are the reasons why I haven't been on. But however, today there's something nice about Wales we can talk about and we can all get behind. Well, not all of us, but that most of us can get behind. So, right, Ryan Reynolds, Canadian duo Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney, who, hands up, I've never heard of McElhenney before this story. I'm sure everyone knows they've bought Wrexham AFC, who are, I think, Wales's oldest football club, and maybe the third in the English pyramid, which is what they're in, the English football system, the third oldest club in the world. However, yada, 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 everyone knows the story. If you don't, you probably haven't been paying any attention in Wales. But there's different perspectives you can have on this story, of course. Shout out to my mate, David, who very kindly sent me his fanzine called Shag, which is an anti-capitalist publication. So I'm not going to talk really about their perspective on the buyout by Reynolds and McElhenney. It's an interesting article they've written about it. However, he did vote yes to their buyout, as he mentions in the article. And also, you know, I want to talk about the positive aspects of it today. And there's been a new bit of media that they've released about Wrexham today. And the nub of this video today is a question, which is that, is there going to be a Welsh cultural gain from this whole enterprise, aside from the ones that we're already seeing? So you could see when Reynolds, Ryan Reynolds, who plays Deadpool, first bought the club, or it was first announced they were going to buy the club, they were already getting right involved in the whole Welsh social media thing. Quite enjoyable aspect was they replied to Carrie Harper, the Plaid Cymru candidate for the North, but ignored the Tories, which I thought was particularly amusing. But also they were like doing plugs for Evil Williams trailers, and they were just getting right involved, weren't they, in the whole social media aspect of Wales. And then just recently, I believe, so Rob McElhenney shared the badge of Wrexham AFC on his own TV show, Mythic Quest. So, and I think that kind of imagery, despite the fact that I don't like those feathers, this kind of imagery works well for that type of show, this medieval kind of conflicted imagery of classical Wales. So it looks as though that Reynolds and McElhenney are kind of embracing aspects of the history of Wrexham and maybe even Wales, using Welsh language on Twitter and stuff like that. Rob McElhenney put out Welsh language tweets and then slagged off people who kind of criticised it. So they seem to be embracing the Welshness of it all. Now, back to my question, is there going to be a cultural gain for Wales in this? Now, what do I mean by a cultural gain? Well, these guys are two very powerful Hollywood players. They're both Canadian. Maybe there's some empathy in there. I'm not sure. You know what I mean? However, by a Welsh cultural gain, what do I mean? Well, I think there's three things which put a nation, our nation's history, into sharp focus. And they are history, which is also, of course, connected to the language. So you can put them in the same one. Welsh history, Welsh language. Sport, particularly footy, most popular sport in the world, and of course entertainment, hence Wales in the Movies, my channel. Now, you'll know I've been across the world 2 times on my own. I've been to very far-flung places. I've spoken to loads of people. I've met thousands of overseas people from English-speaking countries and from other places. I'm an EFL teacher. I'm an English language instructor. So every day I meet new foreigners. And I use that job as a kind of a covert way of injecting Welsh history and nationalism into the world masses. Only a little bit. If my boss is watching, I only do a little bit of that. But I talk to my students about Wales, and I listen to their interpretations about Wales. And of course, you know what I've experienced and what you've experienced. Most of the world doesn't know about our history. Most of the world doesn't know we exist. And I think this is a problem. I don't think you can disconnect the humiliation that we feel whenever we go abroad. And if Wales means something to you, you tell people, and they don't know you exist, or they think you're part of England, Scotland, or Ireland. And let's be honest, normally they think we're a county in England. And when your football teams play in their pyramid, you can't really moan about that, can you? Anyway, I think those 3 are the 3 areas which distinguish and can distinguish our country internationally. And these guys can kind of span all of those 3 areas. They're already getting involved in the Welsh language, which is connected to the history. They've already got involved in sport, which we'll see a Welsh team playing against loads of English teams. One of 3, 4 only Welsh clubs in that entire pyramid, and probably the most Welsh of them. And of course, entertainment, because they're producers, writers, and directors and actors. So they span all of those fields. Now, will there be a Welsh cultural gain from this? What I'm thinking is, now when I have been across the world and I mention Wales to people for the first time, there's a kind of a mixed bunch of reactions, but one of the most regular ones is always curiosity. And in some cases, even bewilderment. Bewilderment that these educated or curious or kind of worldly people who I chat with and listen to and speak to have never heard about a surviving Celtic country of 3.2 million people, which has retained its language and its culture, that's right next to England. And they've never heard of us. And there's often confusion, there's often surprise, there's often intrigue, and there's often sheer bewilderment. I'll never forget one guy when I lived in Spain in a city called Salamanca. He was a very educated guy. He had a master's degree in history, and he was a fan of Real Madrid, who were managed by Cardiff's John Toshak. And I remember he frog marched me down to the internet cafe, this was 2006, down to the internet cafe to go on Wikipedia to prove to him that I wasn't making up, that I was from a country in the UK which wasn't England or Scotland. Now, these 2, Reynolds and McElhenney, are they going to get involved in this? Because I can't help thinking that, especially if they spend time up in the north, up in Wrexham, which is definitely a place where the conflict of England and Wales is into sharp relief, because right on the border, it's got a mixture of Brit identifying people and Welsh identifying people. We know that sport is defined by conflict, as is history, as is a lot of entertainment, movies, fights, battles, history. All movies have fights and conflict in them. I can't help but wonder, are these guys going to get involved? Are they going to sit down and think, why did we never hear about this place? Why have we never seen this conflict, this type of epic culture defined by a historical conflict and rich Celtic, British, medieval imagery? Why have we never seen this in a movie or TV show? And if they think that, maybe there's a cultural gain for Wales. Maybe we could have a TV show, movie, something showing our historical conflict. So today, what they've sent out is, and I'll just direct you, oh, by the way, big shout out to a viewer of this channel and my patron, Kai Jones. Kai, thanks, man. I appreciate your communication over the last few months, and it's really good to get some positive feedback. Occasionally I get messages from viewers and fans or whatever. It's not a massive channel. I don't make any money really. So it's great to have your interactions, man. And Kai has pointed me towards this tweet today.
My name is Ryan Reynolds.
Hello, fy enw I yw Rob McElhenney, a fy enw I yw Ryan Reynolds.
This is Maxine, and she is our Welsh translator.
Dyma Maxine, un cyfieithydd Cymraeg.
Our new show on FX is called Welcome to Wrexham, a docu-series centered in Wrexham, a working-class town in North Wales in the United Kingdom.
And earlier this year, we became owners of the football club in Wrexham, and we thought it was only appropriate for our Welsh fans to have a translator. So.
Mae'r un tal at hyn yn actio mewn ffilmiau, a mae'r un hefo'r cyhyran gwerthu caws o Philadelphia neu rhywbeth.
Did she say Philadelphia? Because I didn't say Philadelphia.
Oh no, I mean, it's Welsh. It is Welsh, Rob. It's probably just sounded like Philadelphia. Maxine, how do you say Philadelphia in Welsh?
Philadelphia.
Yeah, so it's not the...
Anyway, you get the gist, right? It goes on for about another 90 seconds, a couple of little gags in there. Now, these two seem like nice guys, full of irreverent humour. Ryan Reynolds' PR when he was in Deadpool was just, his social media game was perfect. And, I just wonder, what are we going to see from this? So the Welsh language today, by virtue of that video, has had more exposure worldwide than the Welsh government in their 20-year history has ever managed. Even that, Plaid Cymru, the party that are effectively set up to promote and preserve and conserve the Welsh language. That video today will give the Welsh language more exposure than anything previously in terms of history, in terms of numbers in its history. So I just wonder how much further are they going to go with this? So they now have got a documentary coming up on FX, which will be about Wrexham Football Club, Wrexham Association Football Club. And I can't help but wonder if they're going to get curious about the history of Wales, why it's never been on TV. Well, not really. Why it's never been in the movies before. There was The Bastard Executioner also on FX, but probably we're not going to talk about that further in detail. So I want to say diolch and fawr, big time to these Canadian lads, because they're doing a good thing. They're doing a good thing. There's other perspectives on the buying of Wrexham AFC because they were kind of a model of how a football club should be owned by fans, especially given everything what's happened with the Super League. But these two seem like good fellas. They got connections to Philly, to Philadelphia, which if they do their research, they'll know about the huge Welsh influence in the creation of that city and the amount of Welsh expats and Welsh kind of descendants there are in the USA. We've got such a huge history out there. We've got a massive diaspora out in the USA, which has never been represented in the way that Scotland are every year in some form of TV show, the way that Ireland are all the time, and of course the way that the Anglos are all the time as well. So Ryan, Bob, you're not watching because it's only me, but obviously you're a funny couple of lads. We all love what you're doing, and help us put that conflict, that essential conflict, into sharp focus for the rest of the world to see. Julian Lewis-Jones as Owain Glyndŵr is, I think, your best bet. Either that or Catherine Zeta-Jones or Morphydd Clark as Gwenllian the Brave. Get involved, lads. Da iawn. Diolch.